Welcome to Release Readiness Live. I'm Elna Miller, your host for today. We are coming to you from our home studios again to share some of the new features in the Spring 21 release. After our product team shares the highlights, we're going to take some time to answer your questions live on the air. We will be monitoring both the Release Readiness Trailblazers community as well as Twitter. So please post your questions early and use the hashtag Salesforce Live. For your longer, more detailed questions, we recommend posting those in the community so the conversation can continue after the webcast. If we don't get to your question live on the air, don't worry, we'll be sure to follow up with you within a few days. All of our webcasts will be available for later viewing on the Salesforce Live website. And since we may be covering the roadmap and making some forward-looking statements, we ask that you please make sure that any purchasing decisions you make be based on currently available functionality. Now, let's get started with Field Service Lightning and meet our product managers.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Release Readiness Live for the Spring 21 release of Salesforce Field Service. I'm Gary Brandelaire, Senior Director of Product Management. Today, we will review the new features coming out of our different pillars: Asset, Resource, Mobile, and Foundation. We have also a special guest today, as ServiceMax will present their new product called Asset 360 that is built on top of Salesforce Field Service. This partnership is helping us accelerate our investment in the asset service management area to provide even more value to you and help you digitally transform your businesses. In the Spring 21 release, we are introducing 4 new features. The first one is a new AI capability that will allow you to recommend parts on work order using Einstein Recommendation Builder. The second one is Product Service Campaign. This data model allows you to track product recall in your CRM to make it easier to track progress and validate all relevant equipment are fixed. The third one concludes a big investment done by our team on time-based maintenance. And finally, we are providing an additional capability on entitlement to allow you to set a maximum number of work orders that can be executed under that entitlement. In the future, we are planning to provide 2 more additional pilot features. One is around managing better serial number in the context of inventory management. The second one is centered around providing you new capabilities to offer meta-based maintenance to your customers. We know maintenance management is key to you, and we are therefore continuing to invest in this area. All right, so let's deep dive in each features. As mentioned, we are now allowing you to recommend parts on work order using Einstein Recommendation Builder. This is extremely easy to set up and will allow you to maximize first-time fix rate by always making sure the product required mentioned on the work order are in line with what really need to be installed and replaced on site. We realize more and more customers need to execute product recall or mass actions on various products, and quite often our customers are using separate systems for this. Therefore, we are now introducing Product Service Campaign. This data model allows you to track product recall and assign equipment against it to track progress. Tracking this kind of campaign in your number one customer success platform makes a lot of sense, as you need contact information as well as equipment information in one single place to execute this campaign efficiently. This is an important investment, as Asset 360 will also add more automation and features on top of this data model. On the side of maintenance management, we are adding one more extremely important feature, as you'll be able to set up multiple recurrences directly on a maintenance plan. These different recurrences will apply to all assets covered by the maintenance plan, unless you overwrite it by creating a specific recurrence just for that asset. The beauty here is that we are also covering the use case of using a maintenance plan without any asset and being able to set up multiple recurrence on it. Finally, the last feature for Spring 21 is an enhancement done on entitlement. You can now track work orders allowed per entitlement to ensure you are offering the right level of service based on agreements you had with your customers. All right, to begin this demo, I'm connecting here as a contract manager. The contract manager is checking a contract for Ohana Inc., which is one of our customers. The contract is covering 2 solar panels, and on the contract itself, I can also see the entitlement. If I open this entitlement, I can see the new feature that we are offering. If the checkbox per incident is checked, I'll be able to define how many work order maximum can be attached to this work order, to this entitlement. And I can also see
how many work orders I have on the entitlement. If I go back on my service contracts, I can see the maintenance plan, which is helping me to execute the service contract by generating the right maintenance work order. Opening this maintenance plan, I can directly see that there are two recurrences set up on the plan. One that is going to generate work order every year in January on the first Monday for major maintenance. And the second one is going to generate work orders every 3 months on the first Monday for minor maintenance. These work orders are going to be generated for all assets under the maintenance plan. If you want to overwrite the recurrence for one of the assets, I can always create a recurrence directly on the maintenance assets. But in this case, I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to simply use the recurrence set on the maintenance plan level. I'm going to go ahead and generate the work orders. So I'll click on that button there on the top right. And now that the work orders are generated, I can see all the work orders generated for the different device. If I open the entitlement back, I can see that I have now 95 work orders remaining, as 5 of them got consumed when the maintenance plan generated work orders. If I open the first work order, I'll be able to see the power of Einstein recommendation builder. I can see here on the right, next best action proposing me to add a few products on the product required related list. So if you look at the product required right now, I can see I have 0 products there, and I can accept the recommendation of adding a face mask as a product required on the work order. This is really allowing me to make sure that all the right products are taken on site to ensure that we are fixing the issue the first time. One last feature, if I go on the asset itself, I'll be able to see that there are now 2 campaigns active. One of them is completed, and the other one, for the inverter recall, is still in progress. So most probably once I have a technician on site, I should ask him as well to execute the action that are part of this campaign. This is completing our demo, and now let's make sure that you are having an insight on what we are going to provide in the future release for the asset pillar. All right, so let's now look at all the features that are planned for summer and after. We are actively working on a feature allowing you to manage better serial number stored in your warehouses. So far, our inventory management system was allowing you to track only one serial number by product item, and we wanted to make it more flexible. Therefore, we are introducing a new object called serialized product under the product item object. So that like this, you can track multiple serial number under one single product item, making it easy for you to improve visibility of your stock, as well as easing serialized transfer between inventory location. We are continuing to invest heavily in maintenance management, and will provide a new way to monitor meter-based maintenance. The use case here that we will cover would be use case like, I want to generate a minor maintenance work order once the car is reaching 10,000 miles, or I want to generate a maintenance work order whenever the temperature is higher than 70 degrees Fahrenheit. That's all for the asset pillar, but wait, because they are much more related to asset service management.
All right, that's all for the asset pillar, but there is more related to asset service management. Indeed, ServiceMax is building on top of our innovation, so let's now see what Asset 360 is offering with my friend Anita D'Souza.
Thank you, Gary and team, for having me here to talk about Asset 360 features. And hello, everyone. I'm Anita D'Souza, Product Director at ServiceMax. First, let me give a quick background about Asset 360. Asset 360 is a new product offering from ServiceMax, who's a leader in asset-centric field service management. With Asset 360, we focus on improving your visibility over assets, spare parts, and processes, which is foundational to the success of your service organization, leading to better service profitability and asset uptime. We want to help service organizations reach the next level of maturity by becoming fully aware of their impact on margin, uptime, and customer satisfaction, and eventually move from selling traditional services to selling outcome. So how do we do this? Well, let's take a look at some of our features.
First, we have service campaign automation to help you manage use cases such as safety recall and upgrade. Next, enhancements to Winter 21 Entitlement Automation, which will now allow you to track service threshold. And with contract negotiated pricing, you will be able to manage special pricing, discounts, as well as exception pricing on top of service price book. and this will be applied to work order via Asset 360 pricing engine. Next, we have cost to serve Einstein dashboard to track how cost accrues against your contracts and assets. And on technical enhancements, we have a new transaction LWC builder to make it even simpler to deploy and update your field service processes. Lastly, we have a MuleSoft connector known as Asset 360 Connect, now available on MuleSoft Exchange. Now let's take a closer look at each of these features. Like Gary mentioned, in Spring 21, we work closely with the Asset Pillar team to define the data model for product service campaign. And with Asset 360, you will now be able to run end-to-end service campaign out of the box. That is, you can now search and identify assets that may be under, let's say, some kind of FDA recall or may be flagged by a quality team due to any safety reasons. And once you've identified the asset list, you can take appropriate corrective actions like creating case, work order, or return order to replace or upgrade them. Now, this will help service organizations to be well prepared when such change needs to be deployed across many assets at once. That is, planning for parts and resources in advance, as well as monitor assets that have been reached versus those that are still pending. And by being proactive, you can help maximize asset uptime and stay compliant. And with advanced planning, you can club them along with other service activities to keep the costs down. Well, in Winter 21, we introduced Entitlement Automation as part of Asset 360 to auto-assign contract and warranty. And now in Spring, you can define and track different types of service threshold like number of visits, number of hours, even service credits along with total amount. The idea here is that a contract may cover a certain set of service activities. So let's say, for example, a contract may cover battery replacement, but only up to 3 times within the duration of the contract. And once the customer reaches the threshold, they need to pay for any additional services. Now, this will allow service organizations to keep a tab and avoid giving away free services, which affects both service margin and causes revenue leakage. Next, we have introduced a new object in Asset 360 called Contract Price Line Item that allows you to track special pricing terms such as parts discount or special rates for given product or product family on top of service price book. You can also track exception pricing here. So an example would be a contract that covers all parts except for battery. And a similar pricing concept can be applied to labor, travel, as well as expense terms. You can define these pricing terms either at the contract level, individual covered asset level, or at the service entitlement level itself. So let's say, for example, a regular on-site covers all labor charges, but when it comes to emergency, only 10% labor is covered. You can further go ahead and define surcharges here for any overtime or special shipments like next day or overnight shipping. And once you have defined them, these pricing terms are applied on work order via Asset 360 pricing engine to avoid any additional discount affecting your contract profitability. And with a new service process transaction component builder, you can quickly build and extend field service processes across multiple objects, which otherwise leads to very lengthy and expensive implementation cycles. This way, business administrators can easily build multi-step business processes with no code to manage complex workflows as business processes evolve and need to adapt to market changes. Now, let's take a look at entitlement and contract pricing in action by applying this to a work order. So here I have a work order that is created from case for a solar install that is experiencing a low power output. As you can see, the auto entitlement engine has run and it has populated the contract and entitlement along with milestone based on the entitlement rules defined. I was able to define these rules in Asset 360 admin page under Entitlement Automatic Rules. Here, you can define different rules for case, work order, and return order based on account, region, or any fields on these objects. You can also set order of precedence for these rules. Now let's get back to our work order. Here, on the entitlement component, it says only one on-site repair is remaining for this contract. So now, if this contract had another 6 or more months left, maybe I could have suggested customer to add more on-site services to get a contract-based pricing. But given this contract is about to expire in 50 days, maybe I can check with the customer about the renewal in case the renewal has not been initiated. So now, this allows call center agent and technicians to upsell and follow up on renewal opportunities and avoid giving away free services by not knowing the contract coverage terms. Now, let's say this contract does not fully cover parts, labor, and expense, which means I need to create estimates first. Now, I'm going to create estimate using the Service Process Manager. This screen is built using Asset 360 Transaction Builder, and I can select parts from product required and populate them to my estimate lines. And when I click Save, it will invoke the pricing engine to populate the pricing terms. As you can see, the pricing engine ran and it has populated unit price, which is same as entitled price coming from contract. And the list price here is pulled from the price book. So now let's take a look at the contract. On this contract under Entitled Services, it says what services are covered along with service count. And if I go to the contract price line item, it has the pricing terms. Here it says for an on-site repair, all parts are covered at 100%, but the solar inverter only gets a 10% discount and the battery cell has a special price of $120. Similarly, emergency service has its own pricing terms. Now, coming back to the estimate line, if I decide to give another 10% discount, well, now that's your leakage, as you're giving additional concession on top of your contract price, which starts affecting your revenue margins. So now, as service leaders, you can easily start identifying revenue leakage by using entitled price and total price. Also, if your customer is interested to know their potential savings with contract, you can do a comparison between the list price and the entitled price. So this is how entitlement and pricing engine works in Asset 360. And here's a quick visual to help you understand how pricing fields are populated in Asset 360. Now, along with pricing fields, we have also introduced cost field, which can be populated one of three ways. First, from product, if you have standard product cost, or from cost price book, if you're tracking costs by various regions, or from ERP integration itself. And once you have the cost field populated at the work order line level, this data can be surfaced via cost to serve Einstein dashboard that will be available as pilot in Spring 21 to further see various cost breakdown by individual asset or asset component to understand total cost over a life of an asset. You can also have breakdown by contract, by vendor, by account, and so on. So the idea here is that if you have an aging asset component that is driving your cost high, you can use this dashboard to quickly understand that and initiate an upgrade using the service campaign automation, leading to upsells. Next, we have the MuleSoft connector called Asset 360 Connect that will allow customers to streamline their ERP integration by facilitating data synchronization between applications. With Asset 360 Connect, you can receive inbound data such as shipped asset, product, price book, and spare parts inventory, and send outbound data for work order invoicing once work is completed in Salesforce, along with spare parts consumption and any RMA or written orders. So these are some of the features available in Asset 360 Spring Release. And here's what's coming next. We are working on some exciting features, working very closely with the Salesforce Field Service product team. We plan to expand your visibility over assets, continue to help you understand how cost and pricing impacts your service margins and profitability, and continue to deliver best practices that are both easy to deploy and adapt to your needs. So stay tuned.
Now, let me hand it over to Tushar to give updates on the resource pillar.
Thank you, Anita. I have to say this is quite exciting, and I'm thrilled to see all the Asset 360 features coming this spring. But now I'm going to talk about something I'm even more excited about, all the resource pillar features. My name is Tushar Sharma. I'm part of the SFS resource pillar. And now I'll be talking about all the upcoming features as part of our pillar. So as you can see on this slide, we've been really busy working on adding some big new features to SFS shift management. Also, in addition to that, we've also made big improvements to our routing engine as well. Let's begin with designated shifts. This feature extends shifts to allow only certain type of work to be scheduled during a certain shift based on a predefined criteria. Now, imagine that you're on a weekend or an evening on-call shift to be available only in case there's a customer emergency. You probably don't want to take up regular installation or maintenance jobs during this time. This time is only reserved for any high priority emergency jobs that might come your way. Now, with designated shifts, you can build a custom criteria so that the system will only schedule such jobs during this shift. Another example that I like to use is to designate shifts based on either location or an account. So let's say you want to make sure you have a few people or technicians on standby during a big event that is going on for any issue with the, let's say, elevators. You can now do that easily with designated shifts by creating a criteria based on that event's location or even that event's customer. Moving on to our second big feature as part of shift management, it's called shift patterns. Shift patterns allows you to create a pattern of shifts that makes it easy to create a lot of shifts and assign them en masse. You can create up to a month-long pattern of shifts, defining one or more shifts per day. And once you apply that pattern for as many repetition or as long as you want, shifts are created based on the definition of that shift pattern. Now, moving on to our routing related features, we are thrilled to announce general availability of point to point predictive travel. So right now, customers get an option to either use SLR, which is street level routing, or try out our predictive routing as part of a beta feature. But this predictive routing relies on a 200-meter grid to do the routing, which might not always be as accurate. But now with GA or general availability of point to point routing, routing will not only be much more accurate, it will also perform much better and available for all scheduling and optimization functions. Predictive travel also takes traffic into account, obviously, so that your travel estimates are accurate depending based on either current or future travel conditions. But I have to say, now with more power comes more responsibility. Meaning, with point to point predictive routing being much more accurate, your route durations may look different. They may appear longer or shorter depending on the situation. So, it's possible that in the beginning you might see some overlaps in your appointments. But you can easily fix those using the fix overlap feature. This feature also comes with our move from Google Maps to Here Maps, but then customers do get an option to use either one of those, which I would show you in a demo shortly. With that, let's move on to a demo for some of these features. Let's start with designated shifts. Let me first show you how you can configure a criteria for designated shifts. So first, what we will do is search for an object called record set filter criteria. Once you find that object, let's create a new record and call it high priority emergency shifts. Give it a description and also make sure it's active. Once you do that, let's start creating conditions. You can pick any field from any service appointment object, including custom fields and formula fields to define a criteria. So first we'll pick a field called emergency and make it equals true. Then we will add another condition to say priority equals high and save the criteria. So now you have two conditions with that criteria and it's saved. Now let's go to the shift UI and let's associate that criteria to a weekend shift. So let's go to the UI, find an appropriate shift that you want to designate. Click on edit and you can see that you can easily add a criteria there. Now that the criteria has been added to this shift, the service resource will only get high priority emergency appointments during this shift during scheduling and optimization. Moving on to our second feature, shift patterns. Shift pattern is created by grouping together shift templates. So first, let's search for an object called shift templates. As you can see, a shift template is a template for a shift with information like start time, duration, job profile, and some other fields. You can see there are multiple templates already existing, like morning shift, evening shift, or even weekend shift. Now let's go back to shift pattern. You can see many shift patterns already exist of varying lengths. Length signifies the number of days that a pattern is applied for. For example, if it is a 7-day weekly pattern, it will create shifts for the entire week for as many weeks as you like. If you go to the related list, you will see several pattern entries, each of which correspond to a shift template shown earlier. Day position signifies the shift or shifts to be created on that day of the pattern, and so on. So if a day position doesn't exist or it is skipped, no shifts are created for that day. So as you can see in this example, 3rd day and 6th day are skipped. So no shifts would be created for those days when this pattern is applied. Now let's see this in action. Let's go back to Shift UI and create some shifts using a shift pattern. Once you are on the UI, click on New from Pattern. Select the pattern you want to use. Select Start Date. You get an option to select number of repetition or an end date. So for our use case, let's select 4 occurrences. You can select a service territory. And then alternatively, you can also select a service resource you want to create shifts for. Once you click on Create Shifts, as you can see, shifts are created for 4 weeks for that particular resource. And finally, let me quickly show you various routing options to choose from for predictive travel. Let's go to Field Service Settings, go to Scheduling, and then Routing. Here you will see 3 options: Enable Street Level Routing, Enable Predictive Travel Beta, this one is based on Google Routing, and then the newly added Enable Point-to-Point Predictive Routing based on Here Maps. Enabling this will override the other 2 options. All new customers will get this enabled by default, while the existing customers will have a choice to enable it. With that, we conclude the demo. And now I will pass it on to Kara, who has some amazing mobile features waiting for you to see.
Thank you, Tushar. Looks like the resource team has been very busy with this release. Great stuff. Hello, everyone. My name is Kara Carreri, and I am a product manager within the mobile pillar. I'm excited to get the opportunity to show you what is being released and also what's coming soon for mobile. Now let's dive in. In the Spring 21 release, we have 3 features that we are proud to share with you. Offline Briefcase, which will be available for beta use, Appointment Assistant, which will be going GA, and Visual Remote Assistant, which is already available. Coming soon will be the GA launch of Offline Briefcase. Next is Automatic Status Change, which is built to help mobile workers reduce manual entry. By using the location of the mobile worker and the location of the service appointment, we will be able to update the service appointment status automatically, without the mobile worker needing to go into the app and manually change the status. This will help the workload of a mobile worker and help reduce errors. The final item I will touch on is appointment booking, which is a feature inside of Appointment Assistant. Appointment booking will allow end customers the ability to reschedule their service appointments with the touch of a finger. This will eliminate same-day cancellations and no-shows. This will also help reduce call center volume since the end customer can do this all online. Now let's dig into the 3 new features for the spring release. The first one is Offline Briefcase. Field Service Mobile is built as an offline-first app, meaning that many records of our core field service objects are automatically downloaded into the mobile cache for technicians to use even if they aren't connected to the internet. Offline Briefcase provides admins a way to specify additional records to be primed for offline use. We prime 25 records of each of the core field service objects: service appointments, work order line items, and assets. Priming also follows these objects-related lists up to a depth of 3, priming 25 records of each object encountered. For this reason, Offline Briefcase is most useful for use cases that require more than 25 records of a given object, or rely on custom objects beyond the core field service objects. That's why we demo it often with custom objects. The second mobile feature is Appointment Assistant. Field Service Appointment Assistant allows our customers to provide their customers visibility into their service appointment. Appointment Assistant works well with digital engagement, sending an SMS message to the end customer so they can click on a link that drills into the location of the mobile worker on a map, along with ETA information. This allows end customers to plan their day since they will know when their mobile worker will arrive on site. The third feature is Visual Remote Assistant. With remote customer assistance, field service organizations can deliver service from anywhere, keeping both workers and customers safe, without physical contact or high bandwidth connections. Remote support empowers contact center agents and field service technicians to solve a customer's problem through virtual real-time guided interaction. It also allows experts to help on-site technicians resolve issues. Now I will demo all the features, starting with Offline Briefcase. Starting with Offline Briefcase, we're going to make a briefcase for our Northern California technicians to use to service solar panel and batteries. The admin will go to Setup, Offline, Briefcase Builder, and click New Briefcase. Next, we will give the briefcase a name and an optional description. Next is the data sets. This is where we add the objects and filters. It's important to filter down the objects so that you're not downloading all the records onto each device, just the ones that will be relevant to the specific technicians receiving this briefcase. Next, we will choose the custom object solar panel. We want just the solar panels that are active in the Northern California region. We have the filter logic 1 and 2 because we want both criteria to be true in order to prime the record. We could also do 1 or 2. Next is the custom object battery. We want just the batteries that were installed more than a year ago. We want this to be a moving window of time, so we choose relative in the date picker UI. If we wanted to designate specific dates, we could choose absolute for the time interval instead. On the assignments screen, we can add individual users as demonstrated or public groups here. I'm going to assign the briefcase to the public group NorCal Technicians. Once the briefcase is activated, the assigned technicians will receive the records with their regular sync. We have 3 new modes in 230. The first one is read-only details. We can see a summary of the briefcase and its assignments, the Details tab. We also have datasets. We can see a summary of the records pulled by the briefcase in the Datasets tab. And last, we have the Run as User. Run as User is a useful feature to help admins visualize which records a briefcase is routing to each assigned user and debug where there are any errors. For user Katie Keller, the briefcase is working as expected. She is receiving 20 solar panel records and 5 battery records, as she was assigned. However, for user Jamie Standard, the briefcase has an issue. While he's receiving all 5 battery records okay, he's not receiving any of the solar panel records. Hovering over the error shows that the activated field is inaccessible to this user. This gives the admin a hint that she should check out the field level security for the activated field. Sure enough, Jamie's profile did not have access to this field. Once Jamie is granted field visibility, we see in Run as User that he's able to receive all solar panel records. Problem solved. Now let's see what the briefcase has unlocked for the mobile user. Now I'm portraying the mobile user. Once the sync completes, the mobile user can go offline. Note that the user doesn't have to do anything extra in order for those briefcase records to show up. To demonstrate that the solar panel and battery records are indeed available in the mobile cache, let's go through a flow that gets records by ID. Sure enough, inputting the solar panel and battery ID finds those records that we put in the briefcase even though we're in offline mode. I hope you enjoyed the offline briefcase demo. Now I will continue with the appointment assistant demo. I will first portray the admin. Portraying the admin, I will first explain some configuration settings that an admin can do for appointment assistant. The admin will go to Setup, Field Service, and Field Service Settings. Now scroll down to Appointment Assistant. The admin can define what prompts the first message to be sent to the customer. In this case, when the mobile worker selects En route, the first message will be sent. The admin will then be able to paste the community URL that has the map view and ETA Lightning Web component saved. The admin can also define what will prompt the approaching message that gets sent to the customer. When the mobile worker breaks the radius value defined in this setting, a second message will be sent to the end customer. In this case, the radius is 2 miles around the service appointment location. The last criteria the admin will select is the expiration of the mobile worker location. This will help protect the mobile worker. This value is set so when the time is up, the end customer no longer has visibility of the mobile worker location. Now I will show you the mobile worker in end customer perspective with Appointment Assistant. I am now portraying the mobile technician and getting into the Field Service mobile app. I see that I am scheduled for a service appointment. I am all set and ready to go, so I change the service appointment status to en route. Through a flow and digital engagement, an SMS message gets sent to the end customer. Now let's see what it looks like from an end customer's perspective. The end customer receives the SMS message with a link to the community page. When the customer loads the community page, they can see ETA information, a map view, and a picture of the mobile worker coming on site. When the mobile worker crosses the 2-mile geofence radius we discussed a moment ago, another SMS message is sent to the customer warning them that the mobile worker is approaching. I hope you enjoyed the Appointment Assistant feature. Now that the technician is on site, let's dive into Visual Remote Assistant. Now that the mobile worker is on site, he is able to begin troubleshooting the solar panel issue. He quickly notices that things are not right, but since he is relatively new with the company, he would feel more comfortable getting another set of eyes on the issue. The mobile worker is able to communicate to the back office support agent who specializes in this issue. The support agent is able to walk him through some troubleshooting steps regarding some of the wires used in the battery. You can see that the agent is able to have the mobile worker drill into the exact location that may be problematic. The mobile worker is also directed by the agent to collect the barcode. With just a few steps, the technician was able to fix the issue and confirm that the unit is working with the agent. Talk about teamwork. Now let's see what this process looks like from the agent's perspective. Now I'm portraying the technical agent that is looking at the case. The agent is able to initiate Visual Remote Assistant right from the case record. She is able to connect with the technician on site, as you can see in the lower bottom left-hand corner. She is able to help guide the technician to the right wires that may need adjusting using the tools of VRA. As you can see, they are able to work well together. The agent is able to snapshot their conversation, and it's actually saved on the case record to help provide a session summary for record keeping. As you can see, Visual Remote Assistant is a helpful tool for several types of use cases. That's a wrap for the mobile pillar. Now I will pass the baton off to Karthik to do a deep dive into the foundation pillar.
Thanks, Kara. Those are some awesome features on the mobile app. Hello, everyone. It's good to be back in this forum. I'm Karthik Shankar with the Field Service Product Management team. I'm going to talk about the new features from the foundation pillar. Let's dive in.
First, we're announcing general availability of optimization insights. With this release, we've added support for shifts to define field employee availability. You'll remember that the beta only supported operating hours. Also, with this release, we support in-day optimization in addition to global optimization. Spring also brings health check to optimization insights. Health check for optimization insights will help you understand any configuration or data issues which might be impacting your optimization results. This component will suggest recommended actions to help you prevent those issues from happening in the future. This will speed up troubleshooting of optimization issues and will provide guidance for admins and implementers so they could be successful with optimization quicker than before. Next, let's look at the starter kit. It's a Salesforce Lab package focused on accelerating the implementation of your Salesforce field service projects. It's a collection of fields and processes that most of you would create during your implementation cycle. We continue to enhance this package with additional features such as notifications when appointments are canceled or timesheets are approved, and automatic timesheet entry creation. There's a lot more in this, and I welcome you to check it out. Next, let's look at an exciting new feature our teams have been working on: work plans. Many service organizations, such as yourselves, struggle with delivering service in a consistent manner. Service managers want anybody performing a job, be it an in-house technician or a contractor, an experienced worker, or someone that's new on the job. A service manager wants everyone to execute the job the same way. And with work plans, you can define those prescribed steps that both your frontline and back office workers perform to complete the job. For our demo today, let's see how Ursa Major Solar can drive consistency in its service. One of the common problems in the industry is that the solar panel produces less power as it ages. We have one such installation where the customer is experiencing low power output. After an initial triage, the folks at Ursa Major determined that they need to send a technician out to the customer's site. So let's create a work order. Click New. Since this is a very common issue, there is already a work type for it. We know what the asset is that we're dealing with. And let me also type up the subject as low power troubleshooting and save the work order. You notice that when the work order is created, we already have two work plans associated with it. One is a COVID-19 pre-work checklist, and another is the solar low power troubleshooting. And these were generated automatically because we were already set up a library of similar work plan templates, and we've already also set up rules that would apply to different work orders and then automatically create these work plans for you. Now let's look at the library. There are three main objects here: work plan templates, work step templates, and work plan selection rules. Work plan template is a container for work step templates. So if I open the solar one here, you'd see that there are all of these step templates. And a step template really is that unit of action that you want your technicians to perform. And in this case, it says ensure there's no shading. While the object is simple, it also has a lot of powerful capabilities. And one of those is this field called action definition. This is the field where you would define what kind of data your technician would capture while on the field. In this case, this field now supports three types of data capture mechanisms. One is a field service mobile flow, the other is a quick action, and the third is a global action. Now let's look at how these work plan templates are applied to a work order, for which I go to the work plan selection rule. And here you'd see a couple of selection rules already, and you see our plan template here. And what the rule says is select the low power troubleshooting plan template when the work type is for low power troubleshooting and your product is residential solar. Similarly, you could have many variations here. I have another one where I'm selecting for a half yearly maintenance. I have a different work type and the same product, and you could have multiple variations here. All of which, when a work order is created, we try to match the fields that you set on the work order with these rules, and then pick the appropriate plan templates and make a point-in-time copy on the work order as work plan and work steps. Now let's see what this looks like on the mobile, the technician experience. On the mobile app, let's open this appointment. In this screen, you'll see a new tab for work plans. Here, the technician sees all the prescribed steps that he or she needs to perform to complete this work order. Interacting with the work plan is simple. You tap on the gray circle to the left of the name to complete the step. Let me go ahead and tap on one step on the COVID-19 checklist. And just like that, the wear face mask step is complete. Earlier, I talked about how you can enable your technician to complete information as part of a step. For the ensure no shading step, I am requiring that they take a picture. So I've configured a flow for this step. So when I tap the gray circle, I see the flow. And when I complete the flow, the step is automatically complete. Similarly, I can launch a quick action or a global action from a step. Let's execute the check junction box for moisture. When I tap on the gray circle, it launches the quick action that's associated with this. And I can save it, and then it automatically completes the step as well. So you can see that the technician is able to complete the job by following these prescribed steps from a single location on the app. And every technician that is assigned a similar job will be able to perform the same steps, ensuring consistent service. Work Plans is in pilot in Spring 21. If this is something that you're interested in, please reach out to us through your AEs, and we will get you onboarded to the pilot.
And with that, I'd like to thank you all for your time and turn it back to our host, Elna.
Okay, hello. Thank you for joining us again. Let's dive straight into your questions because we got quite a few coming in. Powell, you're doing a great job posting questions, so we're going to start with some of yours. First of all, what does Einstein Recommendation Builder parts do more than simply products required on work type?
All right, I'll take that one. And Powell, hello. I'm happy to see that you are asking questions here as well as on our community, so that's pretty cool. So the product required is defined from the work type, and so that's pretty much kind of hard-coded in your data. So when you define your work type, you are going to also define which product you are putting on the work order. What the Einstein recommendation will do on top of this is saying, well, actually, are every single work type always the same? Don't you have like small variation because maybe you are doing this in San Francisco or in New York and you have different products that would need to be taken with you on site? And so Einstein will look at these patterns in your past work orders and define which kind of additional product you should take on top of the one that were defined on the work type itself.
Great, thanks a lot. Now, what about licensing? What licenses are required for Einstein Recommendation Builder?
So the licensing right now we are defining it. Most probably will be through Service Cloud Einstein, but we are going to announce that whenever we are GAing the product.
Got it. And then thinking of the advanced maintenance recurrence, will it happen in addition to the frequency setting on the maintenance plan itself or instead of that?
So the way we have set it up is essentially you always go one level further down, and that level further down will take over the level above. So for example, if you set up the frequencies on the maintenance plan, that will be taken into account. But if you create a maintenance work rule, then that maintenance work rule will overwrite the frequency. And then if you create a maintenance work rule on the asset itself or the maintenance asset, that will overtake the one defined on the maintenance plan. So we have a kind of this overwriting mechanism that is put in place to actually ease the implementation for you.
Gotcha. And Kitty was asking, does the mobile briefcase include related lists? That was for Kara, I think.
Yay. Yes, great question. It does support related lists up to a depth of 3.
Nice. Let's see. And then also Powell was asking, are shifts supported in optimization?
I can take that. And the answer is absolutely yes. Shifts work very similar to how operating hours do. So if you're using either one of those to mark someone's availability, our scheduling and optimization engine would consider you as available during that time.
Right. Okay, here's a question from Caleb. So here's the scenario about the new appointment assistant feature. If a work order has more than one service appointment related to it, in which multiple technicians are approaching at the same time, like they're coming at it from different locations and they're not part of a crew, will the customer receive more than one SMS, in other words, one per appointment? And if so, is there a way to ensure they only receive one message per work order instead of one per SA to avoid spamming them with multiple messages?
I'll take that one. So per service appointment, the end customer will only get one message when the first assigned resource hits en route. And then when that assigned resource crosses the geofence, another message will be sent. So you will not spam them if there's multiple assigned resources.
Okay, great. And Natasha was asking, what's the difference between work plans and WOLIs?
Wallies, I can take that. So work order line items of Wallies.
Okay.
So
acronym there.
Yeah. So work plans are really intended to give you the dedicated data storage, which will define the steps that you want your technicians to perform or anybody to perform on the job. Wallies are used to mean a lot of other things, which I don't want to get into details here, but happy to chat offline if you want me to give you more background on when to use Wallies.
Yeah, you can respond in the community, give some examples. It's always great to have examples. Like in this case, you would use this. In that case, you would use the other thing. Yeah. So another one from Powell, what limits apply in the number of records downloaded with mobile Briefcase?
Yeah, another good question I probably should have covered in my demo. So it'll be 2,000 records per object, 5 objects per briefcase, and then there's a limit of 5 briefcases per org. So it's 50,000 extra records, if my math is correct.
All right, great job asking questions, guys. Keep them coming. We're going to probably get through a lot of them today if you just keep going. So next one, what is required for the virtual remote assistant on the client side? Can it be used by customers, for example?
Yes, and actually the customer use case is the most popular. The customer will just get an SMS or an email with a link to a web browser that will then have the video. So that's actually our number one use case.
Nice. Christopher is asking, does point-to-point routing include the same limitation where any travel calculations greater than 100 kilometers or kilometers revert to aerial routing?
That's actually a great question. I'll have to get back to you on that, so I can answer on communities.
It is a good one, because obviously as the crow flies is a bit different than on the ground, right? Yep. Christopher asked, can we build a custom process automation off the geofencing in Appointment Assistant? For example, update SA status on arriving on site and timestamp arrival.
Yes, you can, and that is a great process. I would highly recommend.
Right, and also Powell wanted to just give a shout out. Thanks for the shift patterns. That's a long-awaited thing. Really happy about that, and I'm sure there are others that feel the same. Okay, so Tushar, let me give you a couple questions here. Is it possible to assign a shift pattern to a group of people?
It is currently not. So you can do one of the two things. Either you use the pattern to create shifts for per employee or per person, or you can create shifts without specifying any resource, and you can create multiple shifts per day, let's say, and then go and assign a resource based on their availability to those shifts. We do eventually want to build another use case. It's called shift rotations, which can potentially assign shifts to multiple resources in form of a rotation. But that's an upcoming roadmap feature.
So you mentioned shifts that don't have anyone assigned. Is that kind of like a queue in a way, where people can pick it up, or is it just something you set up in advance and then later on
Sort of. It's like specifying your capacity, so you know that you have, or specifying your demand as well. You can say I have, or I need 10 shifts tomorrow, and I need 10 people to fill those shifts, and then you can later find someone who's available to fill those shifts.
Gotcha. So it's kind of like planning in advance without knowing who's going to do what, right? Is there a limit to how many shifts can be created using a shift pattern?
That's a good question. Yeah, we sort of by default limit a lot of things to 2000, and we've done the same here. So you can create up to 2000 shifts for each pattern application. So let's say if your company has a need to create more than 2000 shifts, you can just run that pattern 2 times, but in one go it will create up to 2000.
All right, Anita, I got a couple for you here. What type of search or conditions can be applied for product service campaign?
Great. So basically, you can define search on any field on asset record itself. So these could be standard or custom fields, and not just like 1 or 2. You can do a combination of field search. So basically, to give an example, you could search by a serial range. So let's say it's a recall scenario. So you can search for a serial range for a given time frame. So let's say 2015 to 2016, coming off of a certain badge, a certain region. So yes, you could do a combination of standard, custom, and kind of build a condition around it.
Nice. A lot of flexibility there. Will contract pricing work on the Salesforce Field Service mobile app?
Yes, it does work on Salesforce Field Service mobile app in connected mode. So whatever the pricing terms are defined on contract will be pulled down to the work order on mobile as long as it's connected or it's synced up.
Got it. So for people who have a unique business, are you limited on what type of services you can create and sell as credits with service threshold?
Interesting. Actually, really not. There's no limit. You can define any service you want, which is unique for your business, which could be like, let's say, remote diagnostics or training. So if you're kind of tracking them, yes, you can define them as a service, like an entitled service, and you can track your threshold on top of it. Not just that, you can also define this, if you have a multi-year contract, you can define it for year over year. So you can have, let's say, on-site up to 5 for year 1, year 2, you could have a different count. So it gives you a lot of flexibility for whatever those complex contracts that you're having or complex terms that you have.
Nice. Great. I'd love to hear some examples of, how people are using this flexibility and like share in the community, your use cases.
Yeah, definitely.
Kartik, let me throw a couple your way. How can I join the pilot for work plans? People love pilots.
Of course. So we do have a couple of customers already on the pilot, and we are hoping we can add more customers to it. The best way to join the pilot is to contact your account executive, and they can get you initiated into the pilot. And
is the starter kit available today?
So the starter kit will be available in App Exchange at the end of the month. So end of February, you should be able to download it from App Exchange.
All right, great. Back to Gary. Will there be a UI for handling the creation of frequencies on the maintenance plan?
The answer is yes. So essentially, right now, when you want to create the recurrence, you need to write the R rule. So you need to write it, and you need to know how to define it, which we felt like was a bit too tough for our customers. So we are going to work on a standard UI where you could say, for example, I want to repeat every first Monday of the month this job. And so the UI will be working directly in Lightning, on Edit, and on Create. And we'll do that most probably for June of this year.
And can you just repeat, how do you do it today?
So today, customers will have to write the R rule themselves. So they need to know that, for example, you need to type frec equal monthly, comma 1, and so on and so on. So you need to write it yourself, kind of a formula. So it's, if you know it, it's easy. But of course, for many of our customers, they don't know how to write this. So it's easier if they have a UI doing it for them. By the way, if you save it today, you will see that already today you have what we call the intelligible recurrence pattern, which is essentially, if you save your rule, it will be written in an English way. What is the rule is exactly. So for example, it will write every Monday, repeat every Monday, for example, and things like this. So when you save it, you can already kind of read what you have been setting
and tell
up.
how it's interpreted.
Exactly,
Yeah.
but we felt like also on create and edit, we need a UI for that, so we'll do it.
Great. How fast can Einstein recommendation builder be set up to start recommending parts?
So the setup is actually extremely straightforward. You can literally go in Einstein recommendation builder in the setup. You just need to answer 3 questions, which is what do you want to recommend? So it's product, where on work order, using product consumed. So once you have fed these 3 questions, essentially you save, you build your model, and that's it. You can always adjust like which work orders you want to take into account and so on. But basically building the model is extremely simple. After that, you just need to use that model in NBA, in next best action. And again, that is really not complex to set up. So it's literally 2 or 3 nodes to create in next best action. Then you display next best action on your page layout, and that's it. So it shouldn't take you more than, let's say, 1 hour, to be honest.
All right, I'm going to ask just 2 more questions, and then we're going to wrap it up so you all can get back to your day and come back and join us tomorrow for more sessions. So, Kara, how can folks learn more about the appointment assistant?
So you can reach out to your account executive or just post in the community to me, and I will be happy to share more information with you.
Excellent. And for those who are interested in using the offline briefcase, how many records are primed?
We prime 25 records of each of the field service core objects.
Okay, is that based on most recently accessed or?
Yeah, and it's service appointments, work orders, work order line items, and assets. Those are the core objects.
Great. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining. We're going to wrap it up for now. We will be back again tomorrow. And I think, let me just see what we have tomorrow. We have Flow and work.com tomorrow. So definitely come and join us. And, all of these webcasts will be available on the Salesforce Live website for later viewing. We hope you'll continue to ask your questions in the community. If we didn't get to it live, we'll follow up with you within the next few days. And we hope to keep talking about how you're using innovation and how you're using new features in the community. So we'll see you out there, and we'll see you back here tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific. Thanks everybody for joining, and we'll see you soon.